Okay, today we're with Susi Titchener from Cotswold Connections, and you're a life and business coach, is that right?
Yes, thank you. Hi Andrew, thank you for inviting me today.
So looking at your LinkedIn profile, one of the things that stood out to me on there was your experience of sailing around the world. Which sounds like that must have been quite quite an experience.
Yes, it was, yes. Some bits I enjoyed and some bits I didn't.
So you were with the vessel for the entire journey?
Oh yes, I can never do anything by halves. I have to do the whole lot.
So am I right in thinking some people could join for certain legs of the journey?
They were called one-leggers. Yeah, and they were. The first British Steel Challenge was, as the name suggests, sponsored by British Steel. And so there were a lot of British Steel one-leggers who just did one leg. They were sponsored by British Steel and came and joined us for one leg of their four-legged race, which that was brought in different dynamics, which was quite.
So you were in the first one?
Yeah, that's
wow,
right.
Okay, I didn't realise that.
Yeah,
so
the
that
very
was,
first one.
So that was groundbreaking in its own right.
Yeah, yes.
And on LinkedIn you mentioned that you sailed around the world the wrong way, essentially.
Yes, so...
Was that deliberate?
Yes, it was... the British Steel Challenge was founded by Sir J. Blythe, who sailed around the world the wrong way on his own, solo, in 1971, I think, 1970. And so he wanted this race to emulate that. But effectively, everyone on that took part in that race had originally been landlubbers, so they weren't professional sailors. So the Whitbread, which you've probably heard of,
yes,
goes the right way, very fast boats, and they're professional sailors, most of them. Whereas with the British Steel Challenge, J. Blythe wanted to give the person off the street the chance to pay, because I paid £18,000
yes,
in 1990, to take part in the race in 1992, 93. So it was an experience, really, of a lifetime. And for me, it was about this opportunity to be part of a sort of microcosm of life where 14 of you are stuck on a boat in some pretty awful conditions at times. Others, sometimes really lovely, we've got some great sunbathing opportunities. But you were racing against each other, 10 yachts, identical steel sloops. I was working with Coopers and Lybrand at the time, and I met Paul, who's now my husband, and he was taking part in it. He was one of the first people to go up to Che and say, I want to be part of it, at the boat show. And having met Paul, I was thinking, I don't want to stay here. I want to be part of that, I want to be out there. But we didn't want to be on the same boat, because Coopers and Lybrand sponsored a boat, and I was on the Commercial Union boat. But you all trained together. What was fantastic, you all trained together and went out training on a prototype, but then you allocated your boat, and then you raced against each other. But you'd still look out for each other. It was quite an interesting sort of dynamic that developed, that right. Che had put together.
So how long were you training for?
Well, I joined it a bit later, but people were training for up to about 2 years beforehand. Wow. So you'd spend most of your weekends out on the waters, on the training boat. Yeah, one of the worst things that happened was on one of the other insurance boats was my parents were a bit worried that it could have been me, but he decided to commit suicide, put some weights around his stomach, and I must have been standing at the back of the boat and literally just jumped off because nobody saw it happen. And then all the boats turned round to try and, those that were in close proximity. So that's what that race was about. It was about racing, but it was all about supporting too.
Well, all being amateurs, you'd all gone through some experience together.
Yeah, but by the time we were on that fourth leg, I can tell you we weren't amateurs. No. But we turned round to try and help to find him, which sadly we couldn't because the weights just allowed him to drop down. But suddenly going through really bad conditions, with 40-foot waves, minus 10 degrees, over 10 knots of wind. The guys in particular seemed to want to swear every other word, so it was get this effing sail up, effing now. And I remember turning round to my watch leader at one time and said, say please. He probably thought, this bloody woman, Sorry, probably shouldn't swear in my interview, but, why is she telling me to say please? But I was just trying to get a bit of humour in there because it was all so serious. And I think it was probably, I was told that some of the men would go to their bunks and cry at night. They would never talk about that, but clearly they'd mentioned it to somebody and they had bunk mates. But a lot of that those emotions were suppressed and hidden for the men. It was incredibly challenging at times, and that's why I wanted to do it. It was about challenging myself, being with other people in very difficult conditions.
Yes.
And making it work. For me, it wasn't about winning, and that used to frustrate our second skipper, because our first skipper, I'll tell you about him in a minute, if that's all right, because we had problems with him. The second skipper was younger than me, but he used to get very angry with me because I wasn't doing it because I wanted to win. I was doing it because I wanted to go through the journey. You know, the experience of it was just incredible.
Where did you finish, out of interest?
Well, the first leg we were very, very last. We were 2 weeks behind everybody
Wow.
else because of the issues we had with our skipper. So you can imagine on the day of starting, I don't know if you've ever been down and seen a large race like this start. We've got hundreds and thousands of boats and people down there waiting to see these boats take off, go over the start line.